Most people believe their personality is who they are. They say, "This is just how I am. I've always been like this." I'm not the type of person who does that. But very few ask a more dangerous question. Who did I become in order to survive? Because much of what you call your personality was not chosen freely. It was assembled quietly, slowly, in response to what felt unsafe. This is not a flaw. It is how the human psyche works. When you are young, you don't have power. You don't control the environment nor the rules. You adapt, and this is intelligent. If expressing anger caused rejection, you learn to stay calm. If speaking honestly caused conflict, you learn to stay agreeable. If needing too much led to disappointment, you learn to need less. Not consciously, silently. Over time, these small adjustments solidify. They stop feeling like strategies and start feeling like identity. You don't say, "I learned to avoid conflict." You say, "I'm just not confrontational." You don't say, "I learned to suppress desire." You say, "I'm not that ambitious." You don't say, "I learned that expressing emotion wasn't safe." You say, "I'm just emotionally stable." And slowly, a survival personality is born. It is not false. It is functional. It keeps you safe. It helps you belong. It reduces friction. But it comes at a cost that isn't obvious at first, because the survival personality is built around avoidance. Avoidance of conflict, avoidance of rejection, avoidance of uncertainty, avoidance of parts of yourself that once caused pain. And this does not disappear. It waits. Here is something rarely said. Your personality is not just what you express. It is also what you consistently refuse to become. Every trait you pushed away did not vanish. It went underground. And from there, it began shaping your life indirectly. This is why some people appear calm, but feel emotionally flat. Why some people are self-aware, but stuck. Why some people are disciplined, but exhausted. Why some people do everything right, yet feel quietly disconnected from themselves. Because the survival personality is excellent at maintaining stability, but terrible at allowing growth. Growth requires risk, and the survival personality exists to prevent risk. At first, this personality feels like maturity. You are reasonable, measured. People describe you as grounded, reliable, easy to work with. You take pride in this. But slowly, something else begins to appear. A dullness, a sense of repetition, a quiet feeling that life is happening, but you are not fully in it. You may still function well, but energy feels rationed. You get tired more easily. Small decisions feel heavy. Desire feels muted. Not depressed, just muted. This is not burnout. This is the cost of long-term self-restriction. The survival personality is very good at saying, "Don't rock the boat. Don't want too much. Don't risk what you already have. Don't open that door." And at some point, you stop hearing these as warnings. They become truths. They become character. Here is where things get uncomfortable. Many people believe they are avoiding pain, but what they are actually avoiding is disorientation. The moment when the old identity no longer fits and the new one has not yet formed. That moment feels like emptiness, and the psyche hates emptiness, so it clings to the known, even if it is limiting. This is why change often feels threatening even when you want it. Why stepping into something more honest feels like betrayal, not of others, of the self you built to survive. That self says, "I kept you safe. I kept you accepted. I kept you functional." And it's right. So letting go feels ungrateful, dangerous, almost immoral. This is why many people unconsciously sabotage growth. They start something new, then withdraw. They feel a surge of clarity, then numb it. They sense a truth, then rationalize it away. Because the survival personality interprets growth as exposure, which once meant danger. There's a quiet contract many people never realize they signed. I will stay small enough to remain safe. Not spoken, not chosen, inherited. And over time, this contract becomes invisible. You can see this contract at work in subtle ways. You hesitate before speaking, even when you know you're right. You soften your opinions automatically. You delay decisions you know you need to make. You stay in situations that no longer fit because leaving would require redefining yourself. You tell yourself, it's fine. I don't need much. I'm content. But beneath that contentment is a sense of unused capacity. The survival personality is not dramatic. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It says, now is not the time. Let's wait. Maybe later. Don't overthink it. And years pass. One of the most deceptive aspects of the survival personality is that it often looks like virtue, self-control, patience, humility, independence. These are real qualities, but when they're rooted in fear, they drain life instead of deepening it. True restraint feels spacious. Fear-based restraint feels tight. Many people confuse emotional numbness with peace. They confuse lack of desire with contentment. They confuse self-sufficiency with self-abandonment because the survival personality learned that needing less meant being hurt less. So it celebrates reduction, less wanting, less feeling, less reaching, until one day you realize you are living at a fraction of yourself. This is why awareness alone is not enough. You can understand all of this and still remain unchanged because the survival personality can learn the language of growth without surrendering control. It watches videos. It nods. It agrees, but it does not move. This is where many people get stuck. They are not asleep. They are not unconscious. They are over-adapted, too skilled at managing themselves, too practiced at staying contained. If this resonates, notice what arises. Not thoughts, sensations, tightness in the chest, a subtle fatigue, a sense of recognition mixed with resistance. That resistance is not a problem. It is information. It tells you that something real is being approached. The moment you begin to see the survival personality clearly, it often reacts. It says, this is unnecessary. You're overanalyzing. Things are fine. That voice once protected you, but now it may be limiting you. There comes a point. What once kept you safe begins to keep you small, not because it's wrong, but because it's outdated. Like armor worn long after the battle ended, heavy, no longer necessary. This realization can feel disorienting. If you are not this personality, then who are you? And the honest answer is, you don't know yet. And that not knowing is exactly what the survival personality fears most. So it offers distractions, productivity, improvement, self-optimization, anything but stillness, anything but the quiet moment where the old identity loosens and something unnamed begins to surface. But growth does not begin with becoming someone new. It begins with no longer defending who you had to be. And that requires a kind of honesty. Not loud, just steady. As this video continues, we will explore the unconscious loyalty you may still feel toward old survival strategies, why insight without discomfort changes nothing, and what happens when the adapted self is finally seen for what it is, not an enemy, but a chapter. For now, let this settle, not as an idea, as a question. Which parts of who you call yourself were built to survive, not to live? Once a survival personality forms, it does not simply fade away. It stays active, quietly negotiating every decision you make. Not loudly, not obviously, but consistently. Most people believe they are free because no one is directly controlling them. But psychological control rarely comes from the outside. It comes from loyalty. Loyalty to strategies that once worked. Loyalty to identities that once protected you. Loyalty to versions of yourself that kept you accepted, safe, or invisible. And this loyalty often persists long after the danger is gone. There's an unspoken contract many people still live by. I will not exceed the version of myself that once kept me safe. This contract is never written, never spoken, but it is enforced internally. You can feel it when you are about to speak honestly, and something tightens in your chest. You are about to take a risk, and suddenly feel tired. You are about to change direction, and your mind floods with reasons to wait. That is not intuition. That is loyalty. The survival personality does not want freedom. It wants predictability. And predictability feels like safety, even when it costs vitality. This is why many people say they want change, but feel relief when it doesn't happen. Why disappointment feels strangely familiar. Why stagnation feels dull, but strangely comfortable. Because the psyche prefers a known limitation over an unknown expansion. Here is a difficult truth. Growth feels like betrayal to the part of you that kept you alive. That part says, if you change, what I did will no longer matter. If you grow, I will become obsolete. If you risk, you may suffer again. And so it resists, not with fear, with reason. It uses logic. It's not the right time. Things aren't that bad. You're being unrealistic. Why disrupt what's working? And because these thoughts sound reasonable, they often go unquestioned. But notice what they all have in common. They delay, they slow, they reduce, they narrow. The survival personality is not interested in expansion. Expansion means uncertainty. Uncertainty once meant danger. So it keeps you within familiar emotional boundaries. This is why many people live just below their own threshold. Not miserable, but not alive, functioning, capable, contained, and deeply restless underneath. At this stage, many people turn to healing, self-work, insight, reflection, and this is where something subtle happens. Healing can become another form of avoidance, not avoidance of pain, avoidance of change. You learn the language. You understand your patterns. You can explain your childhood. You can name your triggers. You sound wise, calm, measured, but your life does not move because insight alone does not dissolve loyalty. The survival personality adapts. It says, now we are aware. Now we understand. Now we are working on it. And because understanding feels productive, the pressure to act disappears. This is why some people become permanently reflective, always processing, always analyzing, never crossing thresholds. Because crossing a threshold means leaving behind who you were allowed to be. This is also why some people feel threatened when real change approaches. They feel irritated, dismissive, suddenly cynical. They might say, I've already dealt with that. This isn't relevant to me. I'm beyond that stage. But underneath is fear, not of failure, of unfamiliar identity. The question is not, can I change? The question is, who will I disappoint if I do? Sometimes the answer is others, but more often it is the old self, the self that endured, the self that adapted, the self that learned restraint. Letting go of that self feels like erasing your own history, and so people keep it alive long after its job is done. This loyalty shows up in patterns. You may notice you repeatedly return to the same emotional state, even after breakthroughs. You sabotage momentum. You downplay success. You unconsciously recreate situations where you are needed, burdened, or overlooked. Because those states are familiar, they confirm who you are. There's a strange comfort in being the one who struggles quietly, in being the responsible one, the strong one, the low-maintenance one. These identities feel noble, but they also limit. The survival personality often attaches to virtue. I don't need much. I don't expect anything. I'm fine on my own. But sometimes these are not truths. They are defenses. True independence feels open. Defensive independence feels closed. True humility feels grounded. Defensive humility feels shrinking. True strength feels alive. Defensive strength feels rigid. If you have ever felt bored with your own life, but afraid to disrupt it, this is why. If you have ever felt like you're waiting for permission that never comes, this is why. If you have ever felt like something is missing, but couldn't name it, this is why. The survival personality cannot imagine life without itself. It believes it is you, so any threat to it feels like a threat to existence. This is why people often experience anxiety right before meaningful change, not because the change is wrong, but because the identity organized in their life is about to dissolve, and dissolution feels like death to the psyche. Most people retreat at this point. They call it patience, or realism, or acceptance, but often it is fear disguised as wisdom. Here is the key distinction. Peace that comes from wholeness feels expansive. Peace that comes from avoidance feels numb. If your peace costs you energy, it is not peace, it is containment. You can sense this by asking, do I feel more alive over time, or more managed? Do I feel more curious, or more careful? Do I feel more present or more controlled? The survival personality prefers control because control prevents surprise, and surprise once meant pain. At some point, the psyche begins to push back. You may feel sudden irritability, a desire to disrupt routines, restlessness with no clear object. This is not regression. It is pressure, the pressure of unlived parts. These parts are not dramatic. They are simple. The ability to say no, the ability to want more, the ability to disappoint others, the ability to be misunderstood, the ability to risk emotional exposure. The survival personality resists these because each one threatens the old contract, the contract that says, stay within bounds. This is where many people turn away. They label the discomfort as wrong. They suppress it. They distract themselves. And the pressure returns later, often stronger. There's a moment in development that cannot be bypassed. The moment when you see clearly that what once saved you is now costing you, not dramatically, but steadily. This moment is often quiet. No epiphany, no breakdown, just a knowing, a subtle exhaustion with being contained. From here, there are two paths. One is to tighten control, become more efficient, more disciplined, more numb. The other is to loosen loyalty, to allow uncertainty, to allow parts of yourself that were once excluded. Loosening loyalty does not mean rejecting your past. It means recognizing that survival is not the same as living, and that what kept you safe cannot be what makes you whole. The next stage does not involve becoming someone new. It involves allowing discomfort without explanation, letting tension exist without immediately managing it, letting desire surface without instantly moralizing it, letting uncertainty breathe without rushing to close it. This is not action yet. This is psychological separation. The moment you stop equating safety with identity. Many people never reach this stage, not because they are incapable, but because they mistake familiarity for truth. If you are listening and something in you feels unsettled, that is not a problem. That is a beginning of separation. In the next act, we will move into the most difficult phase, the space where the old identity loosens, but the new one has not yet formed. Why this stage feels empty, why many people panic and revert, and how integration begins, without force or performance. For now, sit with this question. Which parts of your life are governed by loyalty to who you once needed to be? Not to judge, to observe. We continue from here. This is the inner shadow signal. There is a stage of psychological growth that almost no one talks about clearly, not because it is rare, but because it is uncomfortable to describe. It is a stage where the old identity loosens, but nothing replaces it yet. And this stage feels like nothing. Not sadness, not anxiety, not relief, just absence. A strange quiet where the old rules no longer work, but new ones have not arrived. This is often misinterpreted as failure, or emptiness, or loss of direction. But it is none of those. It is transition. For most of your life, your behavior was organized around survival. Even when things improved, that structure remained. It gave you predictability, coherence, a sense of who you were. When that structure begins to dissolve, the psyche feels unmoored, and the first reaction is fear. Not fear of pain, fear of groundlessness, because identity is a form of gravity. It holds things together, and when it weakens, everything feels slightly unreal. At this point, many people panic. They rush to rebuild identity as quickly as possible. They choose new labels, new roles, new goals, anything to restore structure. But this often recreates the same problem in a different form. True integration does not begin with rebuilding. It begins with staying. Staying with the discomfort of not knowing. Staying with the sensation of being undefined. Staying without immediately acting. This feels counterintuitive. You have been trained to do, to manage, to improve, to optimize. But this stage does not respond to effort. It responds to allowance. When the survival personality loosens, many suppressed impulses begin to surface. Not all at once, not dramatically. Quiet signals. You may notice irritation without cause, desire without justification, a refusal to comply automatically, an impulse to disappoint others, a need for solitude that feels different than before. These are not problems. They are information. The old identity filtered these impulses out. Now they are returning, not to be acted out, not be indulged, but to be recognized. Integration is not expression. It is awareness without suppression. The ability to say internally, this exists in me, without immediately turning it into behavior, without moralizing it, without justifying it. This is why integration restores energy, because nothing is being pushed away. No internal force is being used to maintain the old shape. The psyche begins to reorganize naturally. When resistance drops, many people confuse integration with becoming authentic, but authenticity is often misunderstood. It is not saying everything you feel. It is not acting on every impulse. It is not rejecting social reality. Authenticity is inner alignment. When what you feel, what you know, and what you do are no longer in constant conflict. The survival personality required conflict. One part of you felt something. Another part controlled it. Another part judged it. That internal friction consumed energy. Integration reduces friction. As this happens, something subtle changes. You stop forcing calm. You stop managing impressions. You stop monitoring yourself constantly, not because you don't care, but because care is no longer rooted in fear. This is when presence returns, not as intensity, as steadiness. You may notice your voice slows down. Your decisions feel simpler. Your body feels heavier, in a good way. Your why becomes quieter but clearer. You do less, but what you do carries more weight. This is not confidence. Confidence is an effect. This is inner authority. The sense that you are no longer negotiating with yourself. At this stage, many people worry, if I stop controlling myself, will I fall apart? The answer is usually the opposite. The self-regulating nature of the psyche emerges when it is no longer suppressed. Control was needed when parts of you were exiled. Integration brings them home. And when nothing is exiled, nothing needs to rebel. This is why people often experience a quiet grief here. Not because something is wrong, but because something is ending. The story of who you had to be. The effort of holding it together. The identity built on restraint. Grief here is healthy. It means you are letting go, without replacing. From this place, action eventually returns. But it is different, not reactive, not driven, not urgent. Action becomes responsive. You don't act to prove. You act because something feels aligned. You don't chase. You don't withdraw. You move when there is movement. You pause when there is none. Others may notice something before you do. They may say, you seem different. You're quieter. You feel grounded. But what they are sensing is not change. It is coherence. You no longer broadcast internal conflict. You no longer signal neediness or defense. Your presence becomes simple, and simplicity is powerful. At this stage, you may realize something unsettling. Much of your previous work was preparation, necessary, but incomplete, because understanding without embodiment keeps the self divided. Integration is not a moment. It is a shift in orientation. From managing yourself to inhabiting yourself, you are not becoming someone else. You are allowing what was fragmented to reorganize around a deeper center. This process cannot be rushed. If you try to speed it up, the old survival patterns return. If you try to control it, you recreate avoidance. But if you allow it, something steady emerges. Not excitement, not certainty, but trust. Trust in your capacity to respond. Trust in your ability to tolerate uncertainty. Trust in the intelligence of your own psyche. This trust is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not seek validation. It simply holds. From here, life does not become perfect, but it becomes honest. And honesty is energizing. You may still feel fear, but it no longer dominates. You may still hesitate, but hesitation no longer paralyzes. You may still care what others think, but it no longer determines who you are. This is what happens when the survival personality steps aside, not disappears. Steps aside, honored, integrated, no longer in charge. If you are in this space now, do not rush to define it. Do not rush to explain it. Do not rush to optimize it. Let it shape you. The deepest transformations do not feel dramatic. They feel inevitable, like gravity returning to center. This is not an ending. It is a reorganization. A quieter life with more weight, less effort, more presence. If something in this video felt familiar, unsettling, or clarifying, that is not coincidence. It means a part of you. Recognize itself. Sit with that. No action required. No conclusion needed. This is the inner shadow signal. And what you no longer defend no longer controls you.